Good morning and welcome to the DFS YouTube channel. I'm Razzle11 and you can find me on X at Razzle11 Here to take a look at pitching for today, the 6th of August. It is Thursday and we do have 9 games to talk about today. 5 on the day slate or the early slate and just 4 games on the main slate this evening. Not a whole lot to worry about from a weather standpoint. Some smaller slates, but I thought I'd put together a video to kind of help you out. Kind of a unique early slate. I've already looked at that, but it is a true first look at the main slate this evening. I will be looking at DraftKings as that is where a majority of my action is. If you're playing FanDuel, cut my pool in half or so. Pricing isn't quite as tight. You don't have to be as creative. It allows you to get stacks you want with an upper tier-ish pitcher. Now, I was mentioning that this was a kind of a unique early slate. Really, it's because I think all 10 pitchers are viable for GPP purposes. Now, when I say that, realize it kind of means that I'm just more sprinkling in the likes of Ryan Johnson, David Peterson, Mason Barnett, and maybe others. But those 3 at the bottom, I think there are cases that can be made that make them viable. And since we have that, let's kind of talk about those initially. Ryan Johnson's best major league start came against the same Baltimore squad. About a month and a half ago, I think he was perfect through 5 or something against them, maybe even 6, and allowed a couple first 2 base runners in the 7th to reach. I don't remember the exact breakdown, but I know he was perfect through 5 innings. For the most part, he's been pretty bad since then. But 3 starts ago against Detroit, he was very solid. I shouldn't say strong, but solid in picking up the W. Baltimore strikes out plenty, but his road numbers are terrible. If Baltimore's going to hit home runs, it is much more likely for it to be at home as well. So, I understand not playing him. And I do think you need to be a true MMEer to consider using Ryan Johnson. But for me, in my however many lineups that I'm doing, I want to sprinkle him in. Even if that's just 5 to 8% or something. Now, David Peterson has been much better. 2 earned runs or fewer in 5 of his 6 appearances with the Cubs. 24 plus DK points in 2 out of his last 3. Now he's coming off an 8 strikeout performance with no walks, and that's kind of abnormal for him. Generally, he's been a multi-walk guy per appearance. The 8 strikeouts tied to season high, and the 8 strikeouts, when you compare it to the fact that he had just 14 strikeouts in his first 5 appearances with the Cubs, kind of feels like an outlier, and especially because we're coming into a matchup with Toronto, who strikes out the second fewest amount in baseball. So, it's tough. Plus, the wind is blowing out in Wrigley slightly. Not super influential as far as I'm concerned, but still, there is wind blowing out in Wrigley. The reason he's in play is because Toronto is the worst offense in baseball. Fewest runs scored, 2nd or 3rd fewest home runs hit. Just not good. Mason Barnett is an interesting option for me. Getting stretched out, so he saw a 19-pitch increase. Probably, approaches 90 pitches. Just a couple years ago, he was a top prospect within Kansas City's organization. Came over for Lucas Erceg, and became, at the time, the A's top pitching prospect. He obviously had been bypassed by a couple other guys since then, but definitely has the track record as a prospect. In his last start, the one that he lengthened out to 73 pitches in 5 innings, he was phenomenal against the hottest team in baseball, Boston. Or one of the hottest teams, I should say. But he was phenomenal and had them scoreless through 4 innings. Had a defensive lapse that I think allowed 2 runs, and I'm kind of shocked that at least one of them wasn't earned. But still, I think he kind of fits pretty well against a Cincinnati team that strikes out plenty. It's a bad ballpark for sure, but he's allowed 5 home runs. Just in 3 appearances, he's allowed a home run. He's made 15 appearances overall, so I don't know. It feels gross, but I think he makes sense. Now if we look at the rest, we get Dylan Cease in Wrigley, but he's been so phenomenal this season that it doesn't bother me, the slight wind blowing out. He's done a good job of keeping the ball in the ballpark this season, which is nice to see. Despite having a little elevated walk rates, etc., he's been even stronger on the road, averaging over 28 DK points per start on the road. Just 3 home runs allowed in 56 innings. Just absolutely dominant numbers for Cease this season. So I have no problem with him as the number 1 pitching option. Noah McLean, definitely somebody that has a ton of upside. Is strongest on the road as well. So things kind of fit into his splits a little bit more. We know that Cleveland's kind of mediocre in terms of K matchups. The Braxton Ashcraft versus Dustin May, very interesting to me. Ashcraft, not very good against the Brewers first time he faced them. Gives up more home runs on the road. K rate goes down on the road as well. But he does have a ton of upside, when things come together. 32, 32, 32, 29. He does have the upside. And that's what we need, especially on a 5-game slate. Like, if it was a larger slate, I could actually see fading somebody like Ashcraft. But given that it's 5-gamer, I think that he's somebody we just have to include. I am interested in Foster Griffin a little bit just because I want to see what he does in his first performance with Cleveland. Cleveland, for the longest time, was kind of known as the same as like the American League version of the Brewers. Pitchers generally go there to get better. The last 3 starts have kind of gotten worse for Griffin, and he has just 7 strikeouts over his last 19 innings. That's not ideal. He's probably not used to this many innings as well, coming from overseas. Like, they're a little bit more spread out, fewer games in the season, etc. But he's certainly somebody that's capable of putting out strong performances. Struggled against Mets first time. Did give up 2 home runs. Both of those were to Bo Bichette. Aside from those 2 home runs, most of the productivity, the 8 hits, I think are going to be out of the lineup for the Mets. So I'm interested. I think his upside's a little capped, though. So if we get some upside games from some pitchers today, I think Foster Griffin's probably not going to be one of them. Andrew Abbott, pitching at home, I'm not enamored with, but the A's are terrible, especially without Langeliers, Kurtz, Rooker, Jacob Wilson today. He's certainly in play. Other 2 pitchers on this slate, Brandon Young, obviously a top option via the strikeout upside in the matchup. He's been about the same at home. He does give up more home runs at home, which is not ideal, but still, I think he's probably one of the higher floor options. Dustin May making his first start with the Brewers. Very interesting spot. Pittsburgh strikes out a ton. Big time upside for him, but his K numbers are just all over the place. He could strike out 1, could strike out 9, probably somewhere in between, but I'm interested to see how he performs, as a member of the Brewers now. Switching over to the 4-game main slate, true first look here. Rangers Torres against the White Sox. I am interested. His last, 2 out of his last 3 starts haven't been the strongest, but still, I'm very interested in Rangers Torres. I have been picking on the White Sox of late with pitching. Most of the time, it's worked out pretty well. They kind of cooled off offensively. Suarez just 5 home runs allowed on the season, 3 of them in 46 home innings. He's a little worse at home, which is understandable in this ballpark, but still, I'm interested in Rangers Suarez for sure. Michael Wacha against the Twins. Struggled the first time he faced them, but he's been really good at home, and I think we're just going to keep riding that. Minnesota's a different team on the road. Wacha 2 earned or fewer in 3 straight starts, 5 of his last 7. I think he's just fine, and given the options we have on this slate, we probably just have to over-own him, basically. Bailey Ober, his last start was against Kansas City. Wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. He's been a far different pitcher when on the road, like atrociously bad. 8 home runs in 34 innings on the road. Just 22 strikeouts. Average against of 315. Just not the most ideal. I will be tempted to fade Ober this evening on a 4-gamer. Where it's going to be very similar to the day slate where most of these guys might just be worth mixing in. Ober might be the first guy that I actively look to remove from my pool. Martin Perez, coming off a phenomenal start when, Reynaldo Lopez got scratched and he had to kind of fill in. I don't know if it was a day early or whatever, but absolutely dominant against Washington. Miami, he was pretty good against them the first time, 10 strikeouts in 5 innings. Kind of an outlier. If you take away the strikeouts and cut it in half where we might normally see him, a big difference, and he probably then scores in the single digits. So he needed those strikeouts to kind of get there. His numbers at home are far better than on the road, even though his walk rate skyrockets. Given the slate, I think Martin Perez is probably one of the better options on the slate. Like, probably going to fall into the SP3 range for me in rankings, behind Walker and Suarez. Kind of interested in seeing what Luis Castillo can do with the White Sox, even though I think he is mostly washed as a true starting pitcher. 7 home runs allowed over his last 3 appearances, just 9 strikeouts in those, and Boston has arguably been the hottest team in baseball over the last 3 weeks or so. It's just not ideal. Maybe I'd fade him more than Ober. Like, they're very similar to me. I think Castillo just has the tougher matchup. Walker Buehler against Arizona feels not great. Struggled against him in the first start. He has been better from a fantasy point perspective on the road with San Diego, but his underlying numbers are worse on the road. Arizona does not strike out against anybody, really. They do strike out a little more against right-handed pitching, but they just don't strike out a whole lot. He has 2 starts of just 1 strikeout over his last 4. 13 walks over his last 4. Like, there's just a lot of things kind of going in the wrong direction. Buehler probably falls in the Ober range for me, which is interesting to see because we just have 8 pitchers, and it's already 3 pitchers that I really don't want to play on this slate. Jansen Junk, I'm more interested in playing Jansen Junk than I am Bailey Ober. 16 plus fantasy points in 3 out of his last 4 starts. 1 earned or fewer allowed in 4 out of his last 5. The upside isn't tremendous by any means, but given the slate, there is some ability there. Looked pretty good in his last start against the Mets on the road. His 1 start against Atlanta was horrendous and got lit up. That's kind of more what I'd be expecting, but there's a route for him, I think, to outperform some of these other guys. I would have blown off Cole Drake as not an option until Mitch Brott absolutely dominated San Diego last night. He racks up pitch count early and often. 4 innings, 94 pitches in his last start. There is some K ability in him. He does have 12 strikeouts in his 13 innings so far. So there's this, a route to him being SP2 with like 15 to 16 fantasy points. That's how bad the slate is, but he's still considerably behind like Martin Perez for me. Just maybe ahead of Jansen Junk though. But there we have it. There's kind of the first look at these gross pitching options on today's slate of games. If you enjoy what I bring to you, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell, and get the alert anytime we drop videos here at DFS Army. If you want to join us, get access to our coaches, tools, sheets, Discord, etc., there will be a link in the description below. You can use promo code BOOK, B-O-O-K, that gets you 20% off any DFS Army membership. There's a link to the merch store. You can check out my hoodie, some of the other designs we do have. And as always, best of luck, everybody.